Listen up. This is not a theory, not speculation, and definitely not some feel-good spiritual nonsense. This is the truth they buried, burned, and erased from history. You? Yes, you are not just some insignificant mortal crawling on this rock in space. You are divine. You are God. And the only reason you don't know it is because they made sure you never figured it out. This is one of the oldest secrets in human history, hidden by empires, crushed by religions, and dismissed by the so-called rational world. The idea that every human carries a piece of the divine within them was not just a philosophical musing, it was a revolutionary, dangerous truth that those in power feared. Because if you understood what you truly are, no king, no priest, no system could ever control you again. The origins of this idea go back thousands of years, deep into the heart of ancient Gnostic teachings, Eastern mysticism, and esoteric wisdom that predated mainstream religion. The core of it? The physical world is an illusion, a prison for your soul. The true God, the real source of all creation, is not some external deity sitting on a throne in the clouds. The true God is consciousness itself, and that consciousness is you. Gnosticism, one of the most dangerous movements to early Christianity, taught that the material world was created by an imposter god, a lower, corrupted being known as the demiurge. This entity, worshipped in mainstream religions as God, was not the ultimate creator. Instead, it was a deceiver, trapping divine souls in the physical realm to keep them from remembering their true nature. The Gnostics believed that the only way out of this illusion was through knowledge gnosis, which revealed the truth that human souls were fragments of the divine, trapped in flesh, waiting to awaken. This knowledge was a direct threat to power. If people understood that salvation wasn't about obedience, rituals, or worshipping some jealous, vengeful deity, but instead about self-awareness and enlightenment, the entire religious and political structure would collapse. And so, the suppression began. Gnostic texts were outlawed. Their followers were hunted, executed, erased from history. The Gospel of Thomas, a text that directly challenges the idea of an external savior, was banned. In it, Jesus doesn't preach worship, he preaches self-discovery. He says, whoever finds himself is superior to the world. That's right. Not whoever obeys, not whoever believes without question. Whoever finds himself. Because the power isn't out there, it's inside you. But it wasn't just Christianity that buried this truth. The same concept appears across multiple traditions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Hermeticism, even early Jewish mysticism. The Upanishads declare, Tattvam Asi, you are that. You are the divine. The kingdom of heaven isn't above you. It's within you. And yet, over time, all of these teachings were either twisted, reinterpreted, or outright erased to serve one purpose: control. Religions evolved from pathways to self-discovery into systems of obedience. You weren't supposed to ask questions. You weren't supposed to seek knowledge. You were supposed to submit. Because here's the brutal truth: a person who knows they are God cannot be ruled. If you understand that you are a fractal of the infinite, a spark of divine consciousness temporarily experiencing itself in human form, then no external authority holds power over you. No government, no church, no ideology. You see through the illusion, and once you do, you can't be controlled anymore. And that is why this knowledge was hidden. That is why you were told you are weak, small, powerless. That is why for thousands of years, they've conditioned you to think that enlightenment comes from outside, from priests, from saviors, from prophets, from books written by men who needed you to kneel. But here's what they never wanted you to know: you don't need a savior. You don't need permission. You don't need anything except the truth that has been inside you all along. And that truth is this: you are God. Look around. Everything you see, everything you've been told about reality, it's a lie. Your entire existence has been carefully designed to keep you blind, to keep you obedient, to keep you trapped. But trapped in what? This world isn't what you think it is. The life you've been living, the reality you've accepted, is a carefully constructed illusion. And the most sinister part? You were born into it. You never had a choice. From the moment you took your first breath, the system was already in place, shaping your mind, controlling your thoughts, telling you what's real and what's not. This isn't paranoia. This isn't fiction. This is ancient knowledge buried by those who wanted to keep you asleep. The Gnostics knew the truth. They weren't just another religious sect, they were revolutionaries. They understood that the world we live in wasn't created for us, it was built to enslave us. They called this place a false reality, trap engineered by a lower, corrupt force known as the demiurge. This entity, and the lesser rulers under it, constructed the material world to keep you locked away from your true divine nature. And here's where it gets even darker: everything in this system is designed to reinforce the illusion. Society teaches you that your body, your name, your social status, that's who you are. You're told to work, consume, obey, and never question the nature of your existence. Schools don't teach you to think critically about your reality. They teach you to memorize, to follow, to fit into a structure that was already built long before you got here. Religions tell you that God is separate from you, that salvation is something you have to earn through obedience and submission. Governments tell you that you are powerless without their authority. The media keeps you distracted, keeps you entertained, keeps you too busy to stop and question, why am I here? What is this place? Who benefits from me staying ignorant? The ancients asked these questions. They realized that the demiurge, the false creator, wasn't just some metaphor. It was the embodiment of control, a system that feeds off of your energy, your belief, your ignorance. Every time you accept this reality as absolute, every time you surrender your power to an external force, you strengthen the very prison that keeps you locked in. This is why Gnosis self-knowledge was the greatest threat to those in power. Once you see the bars of the cage, you can't unsee them. Once you recognize that this world is nothing more than a grand deception, designed to make you forget your divine nature, you start looking for the way out. And that's where the real war begins. History is littered with evidence of those who woke up to this truth and what happened to them. The Gnostics? Hunted down. Their texts burned. The Cathars, the Bogomils, the mystics who dared to question reality, massacred. Because an enslaved population is easy to control. An awakened population? Impossible. This world is not your home. It never was. It was built to keep you inside, to keep you convinced that your only purpose is to serve, to struggle, to die without ever remembering what you really are. But here's the truth: this prison only holds power over you if you accept it as real. The moment you start questioning, really questioning the system, the cracks begin to show. The moment you stop identifying with this illusion, you become dangerous. You become untouchable. Because once you wake up, they can't control you anymore. Ever wonder why you've never heard this before? Why no one ever told you that you are divine, that you are trapped, that this world is a lie? It's not an accident. It's not a mistake. The truth wasn't just forgotten, it was erased, systematically, deliberately, and with brutal force. The people in power didn't just stumble upon their control. They engineered it. They built entire institutions to ensure you never discovered who you really are. And the first step in doing that? Destroying the knowledge that could set you free. Let's talk about history, the real history, the one they don't teach you. The early Gnostics weren't just another religious movement. They were a threat. A direct, existential threat to those who wanted to rule. Because they didn't preach obedience, they preached liberation. They didn't tell people to bow, they told them to wake up. And that made them public enemy number one. The Roman Empire couldn't tolerate them. The early church couldn't tolerate them. So they did what all oppressive systems do when they face an existential threat: they wiped them out. The First Council of Nicaea in 325 AD? That wasn't just some theological debate. It was a political move, a rebranding of spirituality into control. The ruling elite cherry-picked which texts would become scripture and which would be buried. Anything that suggested humans had direct access to divinity, gone. Anything that implied salvation came from knowledge rather than obedience, banned. The Gnostic Gospels, like the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Judas, they were all destroyed. Their followers? Hunted down, labeled heretics, and exterminated. The message was clear: you do not have power. The church has power. The empire has power. You will submit. And they didn't stop there. Over centuries, any movement that hinted at personal spiritual freedom was crushed. The Cathars in medieval France? Slaughtered by the thousands. The Bogomils? Wiped out. The mystics and alchemists who spoke of hidden knowledge? Burned at the stake. Even today, this suppression continues, just in a more sophisticated form. Modern religions tell you that questioning is dangerous. Schools teach you to accept authority without resistance. The media drowns you in distractions. And the moment someone dares to say, "Hey, maybe there's more to this story," they are labeled crazy, conspiracy theorist, an enemy of the system. It's not an accident. It's not paranoia. It's history. Because those in power have always known, knowledge is the greatest weapon. If people understood the truth that they are divine, that they don't need governments or churches or systems to dictate their reality, the entire foundation of control would collapse overnight. This is why they erased the past. This is why they rewrote history. This is why they made sure you never even thought to ask the question in the first place. But here's the thing about truth, it doesn't stay buried forever. The lost knowledge is still out there. In forbidden texts, in ancient symbols, in whispers passed down through secret traditions. And now? It's resurfacing. Because no matter how hard they try to suppress it, no matter how many lies they build, no matter how much fear they use, the truth always finds a way back. Let's get something straight. Your mind didn't just accidentally forget the truth. It was designed that way. From birth, your entire perception of reality has been engineered to keep you from ever realizing what you are. The system, this illusion, this false reality doesn't just trick you into believing the lie. It rewires your very brain to make sure you never even think about escaping. And here's how they did it. 1. The trap of identity. The first thing they did was make you identify with the prison. Before you even understood language, they told you who you are. Your name. Your nationality. Your religion. Your gender. Your race. You were given a label, and from that moment on, you were told to defend it, live by it, and never question it. Why? Because the moment you identify with something, you become trapped inside it. You forget that you are something far greater. You are not your name. You are not your body. You are not your job, your bank account, or your political beliefs. You are consciousness itself, but they made sure you never figured that out. 2. The sensory prison. They locked you inside your 5 senses. Everything you experience, sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell, tells you this world is real. The chair you're sitting on? Solid. The sky above you? Vast. The food you eat? Tastes good. It's all convincing, but it's not the full picture. Ancient spiritual traditions, quantum physics, and near-death experiences all confirm the same thing: this world is a projection. A carefully constructed simulation designed to keep your mind locked inside the illusion of material existence. Your brain is the processor, your senses are the inputs, and the system feeds you only what it wants you to see. Ever wonder why so many people feel like something is missing, like there's some greater reality beyond this one? That's because there is. But as long as you rely solely on your 5 senses, you will never see past the walls. 3. The loop of distraction. The next step? Keep you busy. The moment you start questioning reality, the system kicks in to distract you. Entertainment, politics, debt, war, meaningless drama, all designed to keep your mind too occupied to ever look deeper. They feed you a cycle: wake up, work, consume, sleep, repeat. And if you ever feel lost, if you ever feel like something is wrong, they have a solution: drugs, therapy, vacations, self-help books that tell you to be grateful for your cage. Anything to keep you numb and compliant. 4. The fear program. But the most effective weapon they use? Fear. From the moment you were born, you were conditioned to be afraid. Afraid of questioning authority. Afraid of thinking for yourself. Afraid of death. Afraid of being alone. afraid of stepping outside the boundaries of what's acceptable. And what do you do when you're afraid? You obey. You conform. You stay inside the box because you believe stepping outside it means pain, rejection, or even death. But here's the truth, the only thing that's ever been trapping you is the fear itself. The escape. This system isn't perfect. The cracks are there. And once you start seeing through them, the entire illusion begins to break. You don't have to accept the false identity they gave you. You don't have to trust your five senses as absolute reality. You don't have to live in distraction and fear. Because once you wake up, there's no going back. And that's why they worked so hard to make sure you never did. Now that you know the system is a lie, what do you do about it? How do you break out of the illusion that's been reinforced in your mind since birth? Here's the truth, there is a way out, but it's not easy. This isn't about wishful thinking. This isn't about blind faith. This is about understanding reality on a level they never wanted you to reach. You don't escape the prison by running. You escape by seeing through it. First, you have to recognize what you are not. You are not your name. You are not your nationality, your beliefs, your emotions, or even your body. Those are all part of the illusion, temporary labels attached to something far greater, consciousness itself. The ancient Gnostics knew this. The Eastern mystics knew this. The mystery schools, the Hermeticists, the esoteric philosophers, all of them pointed to the same truth. The key to escaping is waking up to what you truly are. The first step? Question everything. Every assumption you have about reality, about yourself, about history, tear it apart. Who told you this world is real? Who told you what to believe? Who benefits from your compliance? Follow that trail, and you'll start to see just how deep the manipulation goes. The second step. Detach from the illusion. The system has spent centuries programming you to react, to fear, to obey. The moment you stop playing the game, it loses power over you. Governments, religions, corporations, they only control people who believe in their authority. But authority is an illusion. It only exists because people submit to it. The instant you stop participating in the lie, you step outside its control. The third step. Reclaim your mind. Your consciousness has been hijacked, flooded with distractions and meaningless noise to keep you from ever sitting in silence and truly understanding yourself. That's why meditation, ancient breathwork, fasting, and other altered states of consciousness were suppressed, because they allow you to see past the illusion. They break the programming. They reconnect you to something beyond this physical world. This is why mystics across cultures rejected materialism. This is why secret societies encoded knowledge in symbols and allegories, because the real power isn't found in the external world. It's in the mind. The prison isn't physical. It's mental. Once you start doing these things, something changes. You begin to feel detached from the world. You see how artificial it all is, the politics, the social structures, the endless cycle of fear and control. And then comes the biggest realization: you were never really trapped to begin with. The prison only worked because you believed in it. The moment you stop believing, it crumbles. You start seeing through the illusion instead of being controlled by it. That's when the real power kicks in. Because when you wake up, you're no longer just another pawn in their system. You become something they can't control. A free mind is the greatest threat to their power. And that's exactly why they've spent centuries trying to stop you from realizing it. You think powerful people just sit back and hope you stay asleep? No. They work around the clock to make sure you never wake up. They don't just control you through fear, distractions, and identity, they control the very narrative of reality itself. This is where the real game is played. The suppression of knowledge wasn't just about burning books or persecuting heretics, it evolved into something far more sophisticated. 1. They control history. Who writes history? Who decides what gets remembered and what gets erased? The winners. The rulers. The architects of this system. Ancient spiritual traditions that taught self-empowerment? labeled as myths or dismissed as primitive superstition. Entire civilizations that understood the nature of reality? Wiped out. Gnostic texts, Eastern esotericism, indigenous knowledge, all of it either destroyed or repackaged into something harmless, something that no longer threatens their power. Look at modern academia. You're told that consciousness is just a byproduct of the brain, that the physical world is all there is, that spiritual knowledge is pseudoscience. But if that's true, why have secret societies, religious elites, and intelligence agencies spent centuries hoarding esoteric knowledge for themselves? Why does the Vatican have locked archives filled with books they won't let the public see? Because the truth is dangerous. It destroys their authority. 2. They control religion. Let's be clear, religion was hijacked a long time ago. It was never meant to be a system of control, but that's exactly what it became. Instead of a path to personal enlightenment, it became a tool to manufacture obedience. The original spiritual teachers, Jesus, Buddha, Laozi, the ancient mystics, taught people to look within, to discover their own power. But the institutions that formed around them rewrote the message. Instead of self-liberation, they pushed submission. Instead of discovering your own divinity, you were told to worship an external authority. Why? Because an awakened population can't be ruled. Look at every major religion. The core, mystical teachings, the ones that talk about direct experiences with the divine, about self-realization, about breaking free, were either removed, demonized, or buried in secrecy. You were left with rituals, rules, and obedience. They don't care if you believe in God. They care if you realize that you are part of it. That's the threat. 3. They control science and technology. You were sold the idea that science and spirituality are opposites. That one is based on evidence and the other is fantasy. That was intentional. The more you believe that only the material world is real, the more disconnected you become from your true nature. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, the most powerful people on the planet are obsessed with metaphysics, with ancient energy practices, with consciousness experiments. They know there's more to reality, but they don't want you to know. Why is consciousness research constantly shut down? Why do mainstream scientists who explore the nature of reality beyond materialism get ridiculed, blacklisted, or silenced? Because the moment science proves what ancient mystics already knew, that your mind shapes reality, that this world is not what it seems, that you have more power than you've been told, the illusion crumbles. And if the illusion crumbles, so does their control. They knew you'd figure it out, so they built a backup plan. Here's the genius of their system. They knew some people would start waking up. They knew not everyone would stay asleep forever. So they built controlled opposition. Fake spirituality. New Age movements that sound profound but keep you trapped in another layer of illusion. Gurus who promise enlightenment but feed you another set of rules. Conspiracies designed to confuse and mislead, mixing truth with lies to make sure you never get to the real answers. It's all by design. They don't need to suppress every truth. They just need to flood you with so much nonsense that you never know what's real. Their biggest weapon? You. The people who enforce this system aren't just the elites. It's your teachers, your parents, your peers. People who are so deeply conditioned that they defend their own enslavement. That's how deep this goes. They don't need chains when they have your mind. They don't need prison walls when they've convinced you there's nowhere else to go. But here's the thing, they can only control those who comply. And once you stop playing by their rules, once you stop believing their version of reality, you become untouchable. For thousands of years, the truth was buried, burned, and erased from history. But here's the problem for those who built this system: the truth doesn't die. No matter how many books they destroy, no matter how many people they silence, no matter how many distractions they create, it always comes back. And now? It's happening again. The knowledge they spent centuries trying to erase is resurfacing. The ancient teachings, the forbidden texts, the lost wisdom, it's all coming back into the light. And they are terrified. Because once this knowledge spreads, once people start realizing what they really are, the system collapses. Look at what's happening. More and more people are rejecting the lies. They are walking away from the false authorities, the institutions built to enslave them. They are questioning reality itself. And the more they question, the more they see the cracks in the illusion. This isn't a coincidence. It's a cycle. The same thing has happened before time and time again. Ancient civilizations knew the truth. They built entire systems based on it. The Egyptians, the Sumerians, the early mystics, the spiritual traditions that predate any modern religion, they all had pieces of the same knowledge. They knew that reality was not what it seemed, that consciousness was far more powerful than we were led to believe. But every time this knowledge reached a critical point, something happened. The ruling powers of the time stepped in and shut it down. Empires rose and fell. Wars were started. Entire cultures were wiped out. And history was rewritten again and again to make sure that you never figured it out. But this time, it's different. For the first time in history, information moves faster than they can suppress it. They can't burn every book, they can't silence every voice, they can't erase every trace of the knowledge that's spreading like wildfire across the world. The same truths that were hidden in ancient mystery schools, buried in secret societies, encoded in religious texts, they are being rediscovered. People are waking up. They are seeing through the illusion. They are rejecting the fear, the lies, the conditioning that's been forced on them for generations. And this isn't just a personal awakening, it's global. And that's why the system is panicking. That's why censorship is increasing, why distractions are intensifying, why fear is being ramped up like never before. They are trying to keep the old game alive. They are trying to keep people locked in the same mental prison that's controlled humanity for millennia. But they are failing. Because once you wake up, once you start seeing through the illusion, you can't be controlled. You can't be manipulated by fear. You can't be tricked into playing by their rules anymore. And the more people who wake up, the weaker their grip on reality becomes. This isn't just about learning forbidden knowledge. It's about remembering who you were before they made you forget. And that is their worst nightmare. Because when enough people remember, the game is over. The system doesn't control you. You control it. They don't shape reality. You do. The only reason their illusion works is because you believed in it. But the moment you stop believing, it collapses. For centuries, they've convinced you that you're powerless, that you need them, that you're just a small, insignificant piece in their grand machine. But you were never weak. You were never meant to bow. The only thing that ever kept you trapped was the lie that you weren't already free. Now, you see it for what it is. The illusion isn't some unbreakable prison, it's paper thin. Every structure built to control you is just an agreement that can be broken the moment enough people refuse to comply. Governments, religions, corporations, ideologies, they only have power if you give it to them. But here's what's happening right now, more people than ever are waking up. The spell is breaking. The illusion is falling apart. And the ones who built it? They are desperate. They are throwing everything they have at you: fear, division, distraction, because they know what's coming. They know that once enough people reclaim their power, their entire system will cease to exist. And this isn't about rebellion. This isn't about fighting the system or tearing it down. That's still playing their game. The real path forward is to simply step outside the illusion entirely. To stop waiting for permission. To stop feeding the fear. To stop believing that you need anything outside of yourself to be whole. Because you are already whole. You always were. Every ancient teaching, every hidden truth, every suppressed philosophy, it all leads to the same conclusion: you are the creator of your own reality. Not some external force. Not some higher power that you need to beg for guidance. You. That's what they've been trying to keep from you. That's why they buried this knowledge, why they turned spirituality into obedience, why they conditioned you to doubt yourself at every turn. Because a world full of people who understand their own power is a world they cannot control. So now, the choice is yours. You can continue playing by their rules, living inside their illusion, trapped in the false limitations they built for you. Or you can step into what you truly are, a force so powerful that the entire system was designed just to keep you from remembering it. This isn't the end of the story. This is the beginning of yours. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for staying until the end. The fact that you made it this far means something. You were meant to hear this. And now, it's up to you to decide what comes next.